Women Driving Change book contributor. So Sophia, it is great to have you here today, and I'd love you to introduce our role model, Devi Rajani.
All right, thank you so much, Monica, for the introduction. And I am really excited today about our role model. And today we have Rajani. She is a senior managing director in the turnaround and reconstructing practice at FTI Consulting, where she specializes in advising on debt reconstructing in Latin America. With more than 15 years of experience, Rajani has worked in the construction, transportation, pulp and paper, manufacturing, automotive, airline, hospitality, gaming, financial services, mining, oil and gas, and food production industries in Mexico, Chile, Brazil, and the Caribbean. Rajani is fluent in both English and Spanish, and in 2021, she was featured on Women Driving Change, a Universal Women's Network book, and also was recognized at the Global M&A Network's 2021 America's Rising Star Dealmakers Awards and the M&A Advisors 11th Annual Emerging Leader Award. And after going through that lengthy bio of amazing things, I am super excited that I was able to talk with her and have this chance. And I'm excited to ask my questions. And if anyone listening has any questions, I do recommend that you reach out to us, or we can just see if we are able to answer your questions. So with that, I'm excited to ask my questions. And before we do that though, hello, Rajani. Thank you for being with me today.
Thanks, Sophia. Happy to be here and excited for this.
Yeah, and I'm glad you were able to come today or this afternoon. And to just start off with a very simple question, just to learn a little bit about you, is what is your journey? How long did it take you to get all the knowledge you needed to get where you currently are, or what things do you think are the most important things you have learned to get you where you are?
Well, I think the journey's still ongoing. So to think that I've gotten to where I mean, to say that I've reached like the top or whatnot, as we all know, life is a continuous journey. But in terms of to where I've gone, I guess it started really in university and me majoring in business. And I actually ended up going into an accounting first into my workforce. And so I started as an auditor. I initially wanted to be more of a finance person, the more sort of sexy things to do, at least with numbers based. And, but I decided to do the accounting route. Just I'm more of a, risk adverse sort of person, and I like stability, and I like knowing where the numbers come from. So I thought that was a really great experience in giving me the background and knowledge, and I think that really contributes to where I am today by actually becoming an accountant or an auditor first. And because that's really been my trajectory, because I started at one of the big accounting firms as an auditor, and from there I applied for a job. So I was actually born in Venezuela, and so I speak Spanish. That's my first language. And I was looking for a job when I was at this accounting firm, and I saw something that said like Latin American restructuring, you need to speak Spanish. And I had no idea what that meant. But I just saw this speak Spanish. Do you like to travel? Do you like numbers? And I'm like, oh my God, that's me. And I applied for that job 15 years ago, and I'm still here. So I'm at a different company, but I've been still following my mentor and my leader as we've switched firms. But that's literally how I've been here ever since. So it was all a sort of a fluke chance that I happened to look at a job posting and just saw that it spoke to me, that in terms of my interests and my skills that I already had in terms of accounting and Spanish, and just I love to travel. That's something that my grandfather instilled in me. It all just kind of came together. And I remember when I interviewed for the job, I was almost interviewing my boss. Because for me, I knew I was perfect for the job. I just wanted to see if I wanted it. So that was sort of like the approach that I took and the confidence that I had. And I think that helped me land the job, because I know my boss now says like I was very, I was assertive, and I was like a go-getter, and like I was, he knew that for sure I was the right person just because of the confidence that I had. So I think that definitely helped me to get where I am.
I mean, you have had a lot of different areas that you've been in. So you've obviously found a theme of who you are, and you just like exploring. And I think it's amazing. And it really is an inspiring story and journey. And you've achieved a lot, which has obviously given you a lot of experience and knowledge. And to understand just a little bit more about your fields of interests,
Sure.
Why did you decide to go into consulting? And how has your background impacted your consulting, do you think?
So I didn't know that I was going into consulting.
Mhm.
So again, I applied for the job and was just like, I don't know what this means, but I have to speak Spanish and I get to travel. So it's all going to
Mhm.
be good. And so, it's interesting because I didn't think I would do this job for long because consulting is very time consuming. It takes a lot of your life. It's sort of a
Mhm.
24/7 job, right? In terms of it's not a 9 to 5 job or a Monday to Friday job because you're always there for your client. So if your client needs something, then you're there for them. And that's what the whole basis of consulting is. So, after a few years, I was like, maybe I'll stop doing this because I also travel 100% of the time pre-COVID, because all my clients are in Latin America. So I would always be on the road. And that does get tiring. I know it sounds really exciting to get to travel, and it is a joy to travel. But when you're doing it for work and you're almost commuting to work, right? I would commute to like Mexico or Chile or Brazil or even Barbados to go to work. It does get tiring and it
Mhm.
takes a toll on you. So at some point I was like, oh, I'm only going to do this for a few more years, because you get tired, right? It is takes a lot out of you, but I'm still here 15 years later, still saying that. But I think part of it is just who you work with. I really enjoy who I work for and the team that I surround myself with, because in the end, you spend more of your time at work, unfortunately, than you do with your family and friends. So you have to
Mhm.
like who you're working with and for to really then stick to a job, I think. So that's how I'm still here. And obviously, I do enjoy what I do. Consulting is, very up and down. Sometimes it's dead because again, it's very driven by project needs, right? If you have a client and something's happening, you can be really, really busy. And other times you can be like doing nothing. So it's also getting used to like the ups and downs, right? And so when I talk about balance in terms of consulting, you have to look at it more of at a macro level and not a micro level. So I have to look at it over the course of a year. Oh yeah, like I was really busy for 3 months, but then another 3 months I wasn't that busy, right? So that's where
Mhm.
I achieve my balance versus like every week or every day am I, only working 8 hours a day. That's the balance isn't necessarily there, right? Because it's so project driven.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think consulting is a really interesting career choice, and I think that I would learn a lot from it. And a lot of people that I know who I admire, and even my mentors, a lot of them are in the consulting or teaching field, or at least a portion of their lives are. And I think it's a really interesting field to be in. And I'm really glad that you've been able to find a passion that interests you and to dedicate yourself towards. And for the next question, I would love to know your advice to youth out there and that are listening to this event to adventure and be okay with stepping out of their comfort zone and doing something fun but different. Kind of like how you just saw a job post and you're like, you know what, I'll just go and do it. I have some of the qualifications. So what do you think?
Yeah, the advice is, I mean, you hear it so much and it sounds sort of cliche, but it's like get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And sometimes you don't, it's hard to do that. And I get that because I'm, again, like I said, a very risk adverse person and I don't like change. So, I like being like, I like to know what's going on and what's coming up, but I guess that doesn't really grow you, right? And develop your
Mhm.
skills, or even you don't get to know yourself if you don't put yourself in different situations and
Yeah.
getting to do different things. And, if it doesn't work out, then that's fine, but at least you can say you try it. So, I would say like advice for the youth, especially I think the younger you are, you have more confidence, you have a greater outlook in the world and you're willing to take risks because I can tell you as you get older, you become a little bit more like, yeah, I don't want to do that. But so I would, take the opportunity and really use your youth and like the fact that you're excited about new things and different things and try it out, because the worst thing is to not have tried something and regret it many years down the road. Whereas at least you can say you tried it. If you didn't like it, that's fine, right? Because not everything's for everybody. Um, and so I think one of the other things I wanted to sort of bring a story is that I just went on a bike trip with work, and it was a business development trip. And I don't own a bike. I spin and do, but that's like on a stationary bike.
Yeah.
And so when I signed up for this bike trip, because I didn't want to be like the only one or the only one that was going to be struggling or like be last, I got an e-bike, right? An electric bike, so that I had assistance. So the first 2 days I did it with the electric bike and I was like one of the front runners because all you have to do is press a button and then you just go faster up the hill and whatnot. But then I decided on the last 2 days to actually get like a real bike. So I got a real road bike. And I went on two rides, one for 55 kilometers and 3,000 foot elevation, and the other one was 63 kilometers and 3,700 foot elevations. And again, I'd never ridden a road bike. Like, I don't own a bike. I haven't ridden a bike in years. And I decided to do it. And I was really nervous about it. Even the instructor was like, "You've never ridden a road bike?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh." And I'm like, "Well, that's really comforting that you're a little hesitant about me doing this." But, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. Like, I had that nervousness in the pit of my stomach. So I was a little, nervous, but I was like, you know what? I have my electric bike. If it doesn't work out, I can always stop. They have vans. And I did it. And so everybody around me was like supportive, like, "Yeah, you can do it." And so I was really proud of myself that I was able to do it. Even at this age, I got uncomfortable. I got comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And did something that I'd never done. And it was hard because I came in last at all the bike rides, right? People had to wait for me. And that can be hard, right? When especially
Mhm.
you feel like you're always like at the top of the game, and you're in the top of anything that you're doing. And so that was kind of like a bit humbling, but it was good, right? Because at least I finished. I did it. I was last. It took me slower, but that's okay. And everybody was like super proud and super supportive. So I think a lot of the times we're almost our worst enemies, right? I was
Mhm.
worried about being last, or I was worried about like looking like a fool, and nobody else cared, and everybody was like so excited that I did it. So I think that would be my advice as well. Just, don't worry. You think we put the worry and stress on ourselves more than the reality actually is.
Yeah, that is so true. I find that a lot with any people interactions. And actually, today's um, topic for the peer-to-peer jam is happiness. And one of the things that I'll bring up is if you're constantly challenging yourself, I always find if I'm doing that, that I feel happier, I feel more confident, and that helps with happiness. And it is great advice. And those who are listening will probably find it extremely helpful. And hopefully they can share it with others. And a question that's a little bit more about your own experiences is what's some information that you didn't think you would need to know to be a consultant? And what are the most interesting tips and tricks in the field that you have picked up, or just in general, any interesting tips and tricks?
Um, I don't know what I think consulting, and why I think it's interesting is that you're always doing something different, right? So you always have a different client, a different project. Nothing's ever the same, right? You're never at the same company.
Yeah.
So part of the skills I think that you need to be able to be successful in consulting is to be flexible and adaptable to change, and also be a quick learner, right? Because you're always constantly jumping into different situations, and so
Mhm.
picking things up quickly. So I think sometimes you think you need more technical skills, which I think everybody can learn. Like, I mean, in terms
Mhm.
of like the math, the calculus, whatever, not that we use calculus in consulting, or at least I don't, but the real skills that you learn out of school and really university is really the organizational skills, the how to like think through issues. Because in the real world, right, it's like not like a book and a case study, or a problem that has like a specific answer. There is no answer. You just have to come up with the answer.
Mhm.
So really, what I think consulting really does is it takes all those sort of more soft skills that you can really develop in terms of organization, like listening, attention to detail, and bringing all that together to then be able to be a consultant. Because you'll learn that and evolve as you're in your role or your career and whatever you really do. I think if you work on those skills, then that means your skills are transferable, right? It's great to know like how to do some widget and be really technical on something, but really to be have the most diversity and opportunities for yourself. You need to almost, the soft skills are what's important, so that you can go from one thing to another, right? Learning
Mhm.
things quickly, being organized, knowing how to approach problems without having any sort of basis for it. And so it's really, I think a lot of the soft skills are actually more important than like, okay, you know how to, do 2 + 2. But you know what I mean? In terms of like, I think any of us can learn that if we put we just have to study and take hard, but really the key skills are more of those soft skills.
Yeah, I before I got into like creating things or really trying to share my ideas, it is impressive how much of it is things that you wouldn't even remotely think are connected. and like people, like there's so much of really doing anything is interacting with people, whether it be online, over email, in person, so much. And that's something you need to learn and pick up over time. And it's really interesting listening to you, and all the stories you have are great and really good to learn from. And for my next question, and for the last question on advice you can share, before a little bit more of a fun question, is if you spend more time building more skills, passion, connection, grit, etc., which one would you focus on? And what do you think you would have focused on or advised yourself to focus on when you were younger?
So what are the options again? Sorry.
Oh, it can be, I mean,
Passion.
it can be almost anything, but the ones that I chose, because I think they're pretty predominant, is skills, passion, connection, or grit.
Oh my goodness, that's such a hard question. I mean, ideally you want to do passion, right? That's what everybody says, but I think you also have to be realistic that, you know, not everybody gets the opportunity to follow like their passion. You know, my passion, as you can see, my background is animals. I did want to become a vet when I was younger, but, you know, biology was not my strong suit. So I quickly realized that that wasn't going to work, you know, unless I wanted to put in the time and effort, that wasn't going to be sort of an easier path for me. So, you know, I've channeled that into this, you know, a consulting and an accounting career, because I leaned into the skills that I was already naturally good at, right? Or that I like numbers, that I like sort of problem solving and that. And then I can explore my passion otherwise and other things in terms of like, you know, I get to go on these safaris and look at the animals, right? And I have 3 cats. And so like you do things, other things to fuel your passion. So I guess, I mean, ideally, I would have told myself, I think actually to focus then on skill. So actually I'm going to pick skill because I think, you know, I think it is great to follow your passion. And if you can do it, you should definitely do it. But I just don't think that's realistic for a lot of us. And that you need to just then focus on your skill, because obviously if you're skilled at it, you kind of must like it a bit, right? You hopefully don't hate it. And so that if you focus on that, it then becomes sort of easier, because if you're already skilled at doing something, you have a propensity towards arts or music or math or whatever it is, you're going to enjoy that more, and then you can really follow your passion in some other form or way, in terms of a career, you know, in terms of like focusing your skills for your career.
Yeah, I really like that point, because not everyone can really follow their passion. And a lot of people that end up following their passion, they start off not being able to follow their passion. They have to do something else so that they're able to then follow their passion or do it alongside. So yeah, it's a really good point to make. And now switching gears to the second last question that has a little bit more of a fun air to it, is what do you do on the side that we may not know about? We know about the animals, but is there anything more about that, or is there something else? And does being a consultant help you with that thing that you enjoy doing in your non-work life?
So I would say one of the things that I love to do is yoga. I got into yoga in 2015, after having worked a lot and not really taking a break. I didn't like do any form of exercise. So now I do like to exercise a lot, whether it's yoga is like my main sort of passion. Like I just love it. But I also like to spin and do like HIIT workouts and stuff. And why I think it actually helps my career is because, you know, I've learned, and I'm still learning, but as humans, we're not machines, right? And so sometimes I think or feel like I can just keep going. I just need to keep working. And, you know, I don't need breaks and I don't need time for like my mental health or anything else. But that's actually not true, right? You actually do need a break. We're not machines, we're humans. And there's like a whole body of research that you can read about how our energy cycles are like going 90 minutes and how we need to take rest to replenish to be able to then, you know, perform, right? And so why I think the exercise really helps me is, especially yoga, particularly that I love, is because when I'm in yoga, I can't think about work, because if I do, I'll fall, right? So, you know, in yoga, it's all about like balance poses or like doing, you know, balances and whatnot. And so, whereas in spin class, like, which I like, I can still think about work and spin, right? Whereas in yoga, it actually takes my head out of work. And then after yoga, I'll come up with like a bunch of ideas, because your body has like totally gone from something else, right? Focus on something else. And then, you know, those ideas you get in the shower, you get like randomly, they all pop out because your mind has had time to rest and like do something else, right? And the subconscious has kept on working. So that's why I love yoga, because it's hard for me to think about other things while doing yoga.
Yeah.
Unless I want to be on the mat, and just on the floor lying down the whole time. But
And that's a really good point. I mean, when you have that break, because I've heard of the 90-minute thing before, I even heard it's related to sleep as well. If you like go to bed and then you wake up, there's 90-minute segments. If you wake up during one of those, the end of 90-minute segments, it's supposed to make you feel better. So it's something I've heard of before. And when you say that when you take a break for something, you come back to it, it really does help, because now your brain's not stuck in the cycle of the same thoughts. There's more creativity or thoughts that start weaving into this one thing a little bit more. So I love that. And I'm not super into yoga, but I've heard a lot of people that have benefited from it.
Yeah.
And now for the last question, and one that I absolutely adore asking, is there a quote or person that really inspires you, and why?
So I would say the quote, I think, is I don't know if it's really a quote, but it's like, things happen for a reason. And so I've always had that, even from like high school, remembering that I always sort of said to myself, like, things happen for a reason. And it's not to say that I just like coast and do nothing. Like, you just need to try your hardest, do your best. But in the end, the universe is just gonna, it'll take care of you. I think if you put your best foot forward, you try, and you can't control everything in the end, right? So it's just like, at some point for me, I like to really control as much as I can, but I need to like let go that there's only so much I can do, and then the rest, it'll happen the way it's meant to happen, right? If it's not meant to happen, then it won't happen, but not from my lack of trying or effort. And if it does, then great. So that's sort of kind of like a motto or a quote.
Yeah, it's a really good quote. And I mean, it's really inspiring, and obviously has a message to all quotes help you in some way. And I love quotes, and I love asking this question just to see what people find interesting and inspiring. I have also learned about a ton of really interesting people from this, along with the quotes, and I really like yours as well. And to end on that happy note, I would love to say thank you so much for coming today and letting me interview you. And I hope you succeed and enjoy whatever you do next.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And before I go into the next segment, Monica, would you like to jump on and comment on anything?
Well, I love sitting back. Thank you so much, Sophia. It was another great interview with Devi. I just have to say thank you, Devi, for offering up so much wisdom today. I'm making notes here in the back in the green room, and some things that I find so valuable, especially if I had those peer role models back at like 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. I mean, all of the skills that you do really, they kind of stream along. So you talked about your job, your very first job in consulting. You're like, numbers spoke to me. That was the skill set that I had. I loved to travel. And I think there was, so
Spanish,
travel,
yeah.
and you're just like, this is me, that opportunity. But I think it's really important when you're looking for what to do with the rest of your life. Consulting is not like a job that's typically posted, be a consultant, because there's a million things that you can do. And I guess it's just finding your jam that's really important. So I actually really love the way that you articulated that, because I found that hugely powerful, as well as the, point about looking like a fool. And, you're like, authentic and saying, I am at the top of my game in everything that I do professionally, but there's certain things that I'm going to try that I'm not going to be at the top of my game if I'm just learning. And I think that's really important for young women to realize that we have to actually build up that skill. Mm-hmm. And if we just avoid doing those situations because we want to be successful out of the gate, we miss out on a whole bunch of opportunities and stuff that we can really enjoy. And I probably, it's okay being last, right? Because it's about the experience and the journey sometimes. So I just loved that story that you shared with all our listeners today. Sophia, you did a great job bringing that all out, and I'm super excited to be able to share this podcast with everyone else. So great job, Sophia, and really nice to have you on the peer-to-peer role model talk, Debbie. So we'll see you again real soon. And
thank you so much for having me.
Welcome. And the baton is back in your court, Sophia, to wrap up with the peer-to-peer jam.
All right. Yeah, thank you. And yeah, again, thank you, Debbie. It was wonderful talking with you. You're a very nice person to interview. So yeah, now I will talk about the peer-to-peer jam. So The peer-to-peer jam, a lot of us have become really good acquaintances because of this, and I love the peer-to-peer jam for the people I've been able to meet. And before we get into the questions, which, as I said during the role model talks, it is happiness this time. So all the questions are focused on happiness until the last one, which is about quotes and inspiring people. So I will let them introduce themselves. Olivia or Marigold, which one of you would like to go first?
Hi, I can go unless Olivia, you want to go first, or I don't know.
Feel free to. It's all yours.
Okay. Well, my name is Marigold, and I'm a youth ambassador for United Way, and I actually did a youth fellowship project with a group named 100 in Helsinki in, I think it was in 2019. And next week, actually, in like 5 days, I'm going to Bologna in Italy to speak at a conference about education and artificial intelligence. And I'll be talking about like how it's important to stay connected, like during the new like era of like all these robots and stuff. You know what I mean, right? Yeah.
AI and stuff. Yeah.
But yeah. And also I volunteer a lot. My mom and I volunteer at it's called Love with Humanity. It's an outdoor food bank for people, so you can drop off and you can take and you can give. So basically it's open like 24 hours a day. But what me and my mom do is we just like restock it, but also we like go around and we drop off food hampers to people who need food. And also I've had my own business since I was, I think 5 or 6, I don't know. But yeah.
That is really interesting. I mean, I've never been able to meet with you before, and Olivia, I've had you on before, and I'm excited to hear you also introduce yourself.
My name's Olivia. I'm an athlete. I'm a former member of the Banff Alpine Racers for ski racing, and I'm a member of 5 Elements Martial Arts run by Megan Cotterill, who is one of my many mentors. I love all things to do with literature as well, and I believe
Olivia?
though skiing was my first passion, I've had to switch tracks to martial arts, and I'm training seriously in all disciplines ranging from karate to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I was the Women of Inspiration Youth Excellence Award winner in 2021.
Yeah, and I mean, all of us have gotten some award from UWN. That's how we're able to be here today on the peer-to-peer jam. And for the first question, we'll just go off with, again, it is happiness. So how do you find happiness, and what's a time during COVID, or what are some things during COVID that you did to find happiness?
Do I start?
Yeah, you can go first if you would like.
Well, how I find happiness is usually just like most of my happiness just comes from like my friends and my family and just being connected with people. I think that that's a really important part of life, like for your mental health, is just being around people. And something that probably helped me through COVID is probably just talking to my friends and staying in touch with everybody. And there's like a lot of really cool things like those like iMessage games and like FaceTime. Those really helped just to keep in touch with people.
That's a really good answer. And how about you, Olivia?
How I got through COVID was mainly physical activity, to be honest. You know, we had more time on our hands. I could just go out to the backyard. I could do a strengthening session on my own, and I just got to see that progress by myself. By not having too many people around, it really helped me grow in a sense that I learned I could motivate myself, and that itself made me incredibly happy. Happier than I thought it would have.
That's a really good answer. And yeah, for me, I mean, you had it through athletics and strengthening yourself physically. But I find that, like I said in the role model talks, that whenever you challenge yourself, I find that that makes a majority of people very happy and it gives them that confidence. But for me, I find, other than that, is I find getting outside the house is really important for me to feel happy and just not feel glum during the day. And I also try my best to find and do something new every day, or at least every week. During COVID, I focused on using the fact that everything was online to try and grow and use the time that had been given to me, like going to online events and learning from online events. And that I found kept me excited and happy because I was doing and I was learning new things, which was, I mean, from school I was obviously still learning things, but it added that little extra something to it. And then, of course, obviously made sure I could get outside of the house, which allowed us to find new and interesting local shops and cafes in Edmonton. So for me, I find doing new things and learning new things, big and small, and getting outside the house and just helps me feel happy and continue growing. And now for the next question is, what's the most interesting thing you have learned about gaining happiness? And Olivia, how about you go first this time?
For me, happiness isn't materialistic. I find I get the most satisfaction and relationship with the idea of happiness through conversations with others like we're having now, or even just sitting in companionable silence, whether it be my dog or my best friend Rachel, something that doesn't require you to constantly prove that you are happy, I found is the quickest way to be happy.
Yeah, it's a really good answer. And sadly, Marigold did have to go. So I guess I can go and now answer the question. It's just the two of us now. So I think for me that I have learned, it's about making sure that you're always doing something new to keep you engaged, happy, and excited, which is something you have to continuously remind yourself to do. Like learning new things to grow your base, and then you can share and create from that. And it's about that constant movement of doing something, whether it be outside or creating something that's online or anything like that. And it's the movement that just keeps you going, and then that generates a little bit more energy and more energy. So yeah, for me, I think I find it impressive and surprising. I mean, I've heard it from many other people about how that constant movement and challenging yourself, which I thought wouldn't really do anything besides make you miserable, actually makes you happy. So I find that's really interesting, and I really enjoy psychology. So it's something that I like to keep on touch and up to date on. And for the next question, and one that I hear about a lot and I have a bit of a mixed opinion on, is, do you think money obtains happiness? Why or why not?
I don't think money can buy you true happiness, because that's something that only you can create yourself. But I believe it can provide opportunities either for you or for others to reach that point. And I think it does most certainly help you reach that point.
Yeah, I agree with that. I believe that money can help you gain happiness. It can help to it contributes to happiness, but money can mostly just get you the things that you need. So money can contribute to happiness by giving you the stability and security in order to feel happy, and then little treats to make you feel content, whether it be a trip or an actual treat at a cafe or something. So I believe it's a 50-50 split kind of thing, where money gets you the things you need to survive and the things that you want, and then also for you to actually feel happy with what you have and not spending excessively on things that you don't have. Because that's another thing that I find is super strange, is whenever I start buying things that I don't actually need, I find I feel guilty afterwards, and it doesn't help at all, and I feel worse. So it's about that gratitude and really pacing yourself that I think really contributes to happiness. It's not always completely money. However, money definitely does help. Yeah. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. And now for the last question on happiness is, out of everything you have done with your passion, whatever that need be, what has made you the happiest?
That's a very tough question because a lot of things along the way make you happy. You know, it's not just one achievement, like getting a good position. But I think one thing that makes me happy is my overall growth. You know, in the short term, I love getting, you know, good places, whether it be in martial arts or skiing. I love getting good grades in school. But in the long run, you know, you look at the qualities that you have developed, and that whether that may be discipline, humility, or any of those other core values.
Yeah, I believe, I mean, it's the quote, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but it's about the journey to your goal. It's not completely about the goal. Like the goal can be really satisfying, but it's more of a dopamine hit than the actual travel to get there. For me, I love the independence that I feel when I'm creating something or deciding to achieve something, because I'm learning to do it myself. And if I do an entire task myself, I just find it freeing. It makes me believe that I can do anything, and it's very empowering. Either if it's, I mean, it doesn't even really need to even be about my passions. It can just be doing something around the house, like maintenance wise, or walking to the grocery store and getting some groceries. Just being that usefulness or creating something or just helping out, I find is really nice and gratifying. And a close following is also sharing skills that I have learned. And all the time I've shared presentations or talked and helped people with what I have learned, and just seeing if that mingles what they know and learning from them as well. I really enjoy that transfer of information. I love learning, and I really do. I mean, I really enjoyed helping people learn how to grow their business and sharing with people what I know about housing and about money, because I know it actually helps people and allows them to grow from somewhere that they aren't worried about basic needs, and it's actually going to help them with their lives and grow. So that's something I really enjoy doing. I mean, it's two things, but there's a lot of things that contribute to happiness. Do you have anything to comment about happiness or what I've just said, Olivia?
I think what you've said is very true, you know? It's just one of those things. It varies from person to person, but the majority of the time there is a common theme.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's a really good answer. So I guess for the last question, before we allow Monica back on and we can do a little bit of a talk before we end the peer-to-peer jam, is my favorite question that I just love asking people, which is, what's a new quote or person that you find inspiring? And of course, Olivia, you can go first.
One of my favorite quotes is, "It's easy to be brave, but harder to know when not to fight." Yeah. So I think that applies in many situations throughout life, many. And that is a quote from a book I've been reading called The Poppy War.
Poppy War, what's it about? The book.
The book is about shamans over in East Asia back when all the myths were still alive. And it's about her contacting the gods and the give and take that power presents. And she starts to struggle with carrying on the power of the phoenix, and it ends up breaking her relationships, and it takes her throughout the sequel to build those back up, and then she realized she's struggling with herself the most.
That is a really good moral. That's a great story arc. And it's, great morals from that. And that's a really good quote. It also, I feel like besides the fact that it's teaching you something, it's also a very humbling quote. Because if you really think about it, there are many situations where you didn't need to be as angry or aggressive as you were. So that's a really good quote. For me, I decided to not do a quote today. I just decided to focus on a person because recently, one of my favorite actors out there, Angela Lansbury, she sadly passed away. I think it was at 96 or 97. And it's really sad because she was a great actor and she had a great personality. She was a very fun person. And throughout her journey in her acting career, she was really pursuing her goals. She had a mindset of acting, and she did a lot in it in a lot of realms. And it was her passion, and she even made herself the executive producer and the main actor on Murder, She Wrote, which I believe had like 11 or 12 seasons, which back then seasons had 20 episodes in it, which is a lot of episodes. So the amount of material she was in and she created was astonishing. And it had many themes, and it worked on diversity, and it's such a great show, and I absolutely love it. I love a lot of oldies. So I loved every show she was in, and I believe she really will be missed. So yeah, that's my person. I didn't have a quote. I just decided to do a person today. And yeah, now that we're at the end of all the questions, Olivia, yeah, do you have anything you'd like to comment on? And I would love to invite Monica back on, and we can just talk a little bit before we end up, or we tie things up.
Hi, Sophia. Hi, Olivia. What a great peer-to-peer jam. That was amazing. What a great topic is happiness. And I really loved your insights. Both of you are very aligned with your happiness, where money does not buy you happiness. It provides you opportunities to access, and I like that word, the stability and security, right? And if you have stability and security, you can really find a lot of peace, and that happiness follows. So I think it's really valuable to start, talking about those things, earlier rather than later, and, pursuing the goals that find you happiness, but also that stability and that security. So great conversation about happiness. Truly loved it. And about the alignment with the core values. Really, it's all very aligned, where if you know who you are, your value, happiness isn't too far down the road. So yeah. I think that's really positive, and these are really great conversations to have. But I did want to share that I have a really great quote to share with you. And of course, we all know about Serena Williams, how she was winding up her remarkable career. And one of her most favorite quotes is, "The success of every woman should be the inspiration to another. We should raise each other up and make sure you're very courageous, be strong, be extremely kind, and above all, be humble." So I just thought, that to me sort of wraps up everything about what we want to inspire with this next generation of leaders like yourself. It's about being kind, sharing your wisdom, learning to reach, but always remembering to pay it forward and being really humble along the process. So thrilled to have you on board. I'm looking forward to our next peer-to-peer jam, Role Model Top. Great job, Sophia, and excited, Olivia, for you to switch seats with Sophia next time.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's gonna be an adventure for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's super exciting. And I mean, your quote, Monica, made up for my lack of one. It's a really good one. At this point, I don't even really know if I'm repeating quotes or messages. So it was like, when I was thinking of them, I was like, no, that sounds too familiar. I think I've done that before. So I just decided to go with a person. And Angela Lansbury is someone that I really like, and I really like her acting. So I just decided to fall on her.
Well, I think she's a great role model, Sophia. So I'm really happy that you were able to bring her to light, because it is remarkable what she's achieved. She is a woman of inspiration. Like you said, all of those seasons, I mean, that's a lot of content. And if you think about writing all of those scripts and then actually being the actor, as well, like she worked hard and really loved what she did. So she had a beautiful life, and she's going to leave a wonderful legacy as well. And I think that is as much as we could have ever hoped for each other and ourselves. So thank you for bringing that up. And that's a wrap for our peer-to-peer jam and Role Model Talk. If you loved this session, we encourage you to share wildly with the peers in your network, and have them join in and tune in for the next episode of the peer-to-peer jam and Role Model Talk.